Great. So welcome, everyone. It's lovely to have you all here. And as I mentioned, we'll probably have a mix in the room. So maybe, well, first of all, just to frame the event. So this is the sixth in our Somatic Shift series. And today we're going to be, it's object feedback is the skill we're looking at. So we're going to be working with a playful and imaginative body-oriented coaching skill that invites clients to engage with an ordinary object as a stand-in for something meaningful in their lives and a particular topic that they want to explore as part of a coaching session with you. Some of you will already be coaches in the room. Some of you are brand new to this. So let's just maybe check in at this point, see who's who. Just by show of hands, who here is already a coach, a coaching professional, trained, whether or not you're working with clients right now? Yeah, okay, great. And who's new to coaching, exploring this baby for the first time, or kind of relatively fresh to this sort of thing? Great, lovely, great. And just out of curiosity, who here is from our community, the Somatic community at the Somatic School? Just by show of hands. Cool, lovely. And who is attending this event for the first time? It's your first time with the Somatic School. Cool, lovely, nice. Daniela, I see your hand go up there. No, I know that you're part of our community there. So okay, fab. Okay, so very cool. So maybe I can just ask you to pop into the chat, what inspired you to register for this particular event today? And maybe you can pop that into the chat. For some of you, you might feel, if you're feeling courageous, I'd love to invite you to unmute maybe. You've registered for an event called Getting a Feel for It, using objects in body-oriented coaching. What was it that inspired you to register for this event? So, Pamela, I see you're muted, but it might just be an accident. I'm not entirely sure. If you want to share, anyone can just jump in. Feel free to unmute and just share a little bit. Love to hear some of your voices in the room. Why not? And I'll just, while somebody's kind of gearing up to do that, I'll read from the chat. We've got Eleonora, refresher. Gabriella, curious to discover new somatic tools. Darren, get reconnected to Somatic's community. Lovely. Yeah, go for it. Yeah. Either. Is it Gudrun?
Yes.
Great, lovely. Yeah, please do.
I was just curious. I have done a training in focusing, and I teach focusing, and I also did a training actually in embodiment coaching with Mark Walsh. Yeah. And I was just curious to see what approach you have to this, and especially this focusing on an object. I found that really, really. But I've also been following you for a while, and what you do.
Great, lovely. Happy to be followed. Thank you, Gudrun. And I think you're going to enjoy this from your given. Well, we'll see. Well, let's check in again towards the end of the event. But I have a suspicion that, given your background in focusing, this may well feel like familiar territory to you, or a kind of like complementary to the work you've been doing.
That's what I would like. It's very difficult to introduce focusing to newcomers because it's so vague and so vast. So that's why I find embodiment coaching a very good bridge for that.
Yeah, cool. I suspect it may well be. Let's check in again and see if that is indeed true for you. Thank you, Gudrun. Thank you. Is it Gudrun? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, I got it. Cool, lovely. And please, everybody here, let me know if I pronounce your name wrong, or you'd like to let us know how you'd like to be addressed. Please let us know that so we can make sure we're addressing it correctly. Let's see that. So, so lots of people from the community coming for a refresher. It's Serenella, loving objects and the idea of experience through them. Sure. Emma, coaching can be conceptual and curious about how to bring sensory elements into practice. Lovely. Cool, lovely. Thank you. And keep them coming. Yeah, great stuff there. So good. So I think let's dive in. Remember that this is a light version of one of the skills that we train on our accredited diploma in body-oriented coaching. So we don't have time to go into the depth today. It's an hour will go by very fast. And at the same time, we do indeed have a whole hour together. So that's also a wonderful opportunity for us to to, at the very least, give us a flavor for this work. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Nathan Blair. I'm the founder of the Somatic School. And there's plenty about me personally and a variety of other videos and resources that you can find online on our website, on our YouTube channel. A little bit about the Somatic School. Somatic School, we've been going for just over 7 years now, I think, and we've trained, I think it's been something like 35 plus cohorts of our accredited diploma in body into coaching. It's over 600 body into coaches in the last over the last 7 years from all over the world. And so there'll be many people here today. If you fancy sharing where you're arriving here from in the chat, you are very welcome to, but I'm sure there's people from all over the globe with us today. At the Somatic School, we train a modality called body-oriented coaching. So helping people, whether working online or offline, whilst all the training is online, we train a way of working with our clients that supports people to access the wisdom of the body, and to do so in a way that's very process oriented. And that's all about the idea that our clients are already whole, nothing broken, nothing to fix, and that we're going to work like a steward or a midwife to an intelligent unfolding process or a self-organizing principle that is kind of documented across lots of different psychological methods, therapeutic modalities, such as focusing. Gudrun, yeah, it's very much aligned with that kind of work, and across other wisdom traditions, indigenous or First Nations knowledge. So this is all kind of, or wisdom, I should say. This is very much aligned with these various different traditions. We were the UK's first accredited somatic coach training provider, and the world's first somatic coach training provider to be awarded the ICF's new Level 2 accreditation. And we were last year recipients of an honorable mention for the distinguished coach education provider at the ICF Impact Awards, the International Coach Federation's Impact Awards. So that's a little bit about the school. As I mentioned before, there'll be opportunities for you to learn more about how you can learn more about the accredited diploma in body into coaching. But for now, let's get into today's event. So today's vote, we're going to be discovering this body into coaching skill called object feedback as a way to support embodied inquiry using everyday objects. We're going to learn how to explore the difference. We're going to be exploring the difference between the imaginary and the imaginal, and why it matters, particularly as it relates to this skill. Learn how small neutral objects can externalize client experience and invite insight and awareness. Practice guiding the process with presence, allowing meaning to emerge spontaneously without sort of applying preconceived associations or notions to these objects, but rather allowing the objects become an extension of our sense-making process. And then support clients to relate to what the object represents for depth, creativity, and integration. And so this is a wonderful skill to expand your somatic coaching skill set, and hopefully you'll be able to put this into practice right away. So let's see here. Before we get into a bit about imaginary, should mention a little bit about where this comes from. There are other modalities that work with small objects. Some of you may have come across sand tray or sand play in psychotherapy, or psychodrama. Maybe some of you. Anyone heard of these methods? Yeah, I see some nods, see some hands up. Yeah, great, thanks. Lovely. And so the body into coaching skill we're exploring today was developed by one of our beloved trainers, somatic coaches and somatic educators, Rachel Blackman, in a method that she calls integrative somatic feedback. And object feedback draws on the principle that in childhood, we know how to imagine things, anything. We can use our imagination to imbue all sorts of objects and items in the world around us with meaning, and use that to play and to learn and to explore. And so something in us knows how to do this from a very early age. We also see examples of this in theater, in ritual, and shamanic practices too. And as Rachel, that one of our trainers who I mentioned earlier, as Rachel says, there are many ancient ways in which we invest aliveness into things. So we're going to be exploring this as an idea today as part of our coaching. And so before we get into a bit more about object feedback, let's just unpack a little idea, because this can be quite helpful for us and informative as it relates to this particular skill. By the way, loving seeing all the locations coming into the chat. People coming from all over the world. It's fantastic to see. So we've got these two ideas. We've got the imaginary and we've got the imaginal. So anyone here heard of John Vervaeke? By show of hands, psychologist, philosopher, cognitive scientist, and he talks a lot about this. And I think this is so if you want to learn more about this distinction, check out John Vervaeke, and perhaps a little later I can drop his name to the chat. But I'm sure Google will correct if you misspell it. You'll probably find it. So, okay, here are some distinctions, and partially based on the thinking of John Vervaeke, but these are sort of kind of more widely understood as well. So, imaginary, fantasy or invention. Okay, both working with imagination, but two slightly distinct ways of working with imagination. So, the first is imaginary. It's to do with fantasy and invention. The inventions of our kind of like the what we imagine in our mind's eye. Yeah. Imaginal is more symbolic, more transformative. So, so let me give you perhaps just a little bit of an example here. So if we were to say, imagine a sailboat, imagine a sailboat, then that would be the realm of imaginary. Okay. And only and there's actually, like 5 to 10% of the population who can't actually do this. It's called aphantasia. And so it's sort of an inability to voluntarily generate mental imagery, and can't these people who have aphantasia. Some people here in the event today may experience this. You can't visualize in your mind's eye, unable to picture the face of a loved one, for example, or a place that you visited, a fictional scene. So roughly 5 to 10% of the population are likely to experience aphantasia. It's not considered a disorder in any way. It's just a highlight of individual differences when it comes to imagination and cognition. So that's the realm of imaginary. Now, imaginal, symbolic and transformative, think about a child who ties a blanket around their neck and then flies around or runs around with their arms outstretched saying, "I'm Superman." Now, unlike aphantasia, almost everyone has the ability to explore the imaginal. And so let's break it down a little further. So the imaginary transcends reality, whereas the imaginal deepens connection to what's real. Sort of it's as John Vervaeke or other cognitive scientists would say, it's enacted. It's enacted in the world around us. Okay. Imaginary is passive, it's private, it's non-enactive. So it's largely happening internally for us, whereas the imaginal is active, it's participatory, and it's meaning making through that active exploration. The imaginary is constructed without consequence. There's sort of almost ephemeral in a way. It's here now and it could be gone momentarily, whereas the imaginal is a way of seeing that changes how we relate to the world. So through the imaginal, we can actually learn and fundamentally, that's hence transformative. It can change the way that we interact or understand ourselves or the world around us through that interaction. So there's a little bit about that. Anyone got any thoughts on that before we break down what is object feedback? Just a little bit of just some ideas there. This is just a bit of theory up front, but we're going to get into something a bit more experiential shortly. In our training at the Somatic School, usually we lead with experience, primary subjective experience, because we've got such a short time together. We're We're going to introduce you to some ideas up front and then get to some experience. But yeah. Okie dokes, cool. So let's continue then. So we're going to talk a little bit then about object feedback. And again, this is where we're drawing on this notion of the imaginal, okay, for this particular skill, because this doesn't detach us from reality. It's not the kind of imagination that's going to take us elsewhere. It's an imagination. It's the use of imagination that helps us reframe, re-see, re-enter something that whatever we might be engaging with for deeper insight. And so object feedback is one of the ways that we can do that in the context of the coaching session. Very simply put, object feedback is the skill of using small objects to support clients to deepen into the inquiry they have brought to coaching. Simple as that. We're going to work with objects as a way to access more insight, awareness, deeper knowings that may emerge through the process of engaging with and interacting with this object. So objects themselves, they have certain affordances. And maybe let's pull this down and open this up to the group. So why work with objects? That's the question here. Why work with objects in the first place? Objects themselves, and similarly on the training here at the Somatic School, we also work with the environment, more fixed elements of the environment, such as a wall or perhaps a table. But equally, so this is similarly, we're going to be working here with objects and elements in the environment. They all have limits and they have affordances that can be helpful for our coaching sessions. So maybe we can explore what these might be together now. Like if I was to open this to the group, what might some of the characteristics of small objects be? In other words, what can small objects do that perhaps other things cannot? Some of the what comes to mind for you? Oh, let's see. I think something's come into the chat already on this. Yeah, so there's grounding, says Daxa. There's Emma says you can hold them. Absolutely. Anchors. What else have we got here? A portal for getting into embodied. Portal for getting into embodied self-awareness out of the pure conceptual mind. So yeah, by being more in the more tactile sensing and through our kind of sense perceptions, we're a bit more in our embodied self-awareness now, aren't we? Eleonora, softening, simplicity. Sue, elicit emotions. Yeah, Andrew said you could pick them up, exactly. That's great. So Hannah, you can feel the weight and texture of them. Great. So things like that, you can pick them up, feel the weight and texture of them. Joe, you place them in different areas in space. Absolutely. Let's see what else here. Yeah, so lots of people showing similar things here. That's an interesting one, Andrew. They're smaller than the client, so might feel less overwhelming. And also, as we may explore in a moment, create some disidentification or some healthy kind of distance from whatever it might be that the client's experiencing, so that they can actually engage with it, come into a relationship with it. Dax, so they use all of our senses with the emotional there. Yeah, cool. Victoria, you can work with many of them. Okay, these are fantastic. So exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. So all of this is true. That objects are mobile. We can put them wherever we like in space. They're often neutral, and we're going to be in particular working with neutral objects today. Maybe we can explore a little bit on that in just a moment here. You can work with more than one of them, as somebody mentioned here. So there's also an element of agency as well. Because we can place things around. I mean, there's clients who may take an object and literally put it out of sight or into another room or something like that. And there's a certain kind of agency to being able to kind of place that somewhere else that may feel in some way like it serves them better in that moment. With decisions, objects can be helpful. If we use more than one, we can have this either or, this way or that way, and we can kind of explore two different distinct elements of our experience. And as somebody mentioned here, because the objects are smaller than the client themselves, you know, in a similar sense, not only because they're smaller, but because we can physically hold them in our hands. Here's like a stone I have here with a hole in it, you know, and this is something I can hold in my hand, and this can represent a part of me. So it's something in me that feels, if there's something, a part of me that feels X about something that's happening in my life, this can then become the representative of that. And now it's not all of me, it's a part of me that I'm actually holding out in my hand as well. So there's lots of ways that objects, lots of affordances that objects give us. Cool. Exactly. So as Nicholas says, you can explore internal parts, you too, younger, older, angry parts, sad part. So yeah, exactly. So objects, what we're going to be doing in object feedback is we're going to be using ordinary everyday objects. I know these are not super everyday, like a seashell, but I have a lot of people have seashells in their homes, and this is a seashell. This is a stone with a hole in it. This is a glasses case. Now, these are all relatively neutral objects for me personally. I don't have a lot of great associations with those, and that would make them good objects for doing object feedback with. Why do you have any thoughts on what might be the, or why we might want to be working with ordinary everyday objects that we don't have a lot of prior kind of associations with, rather than objects that have more of an emotional association or existing value? Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Feel free to share in the chat, or feel free to unmute as well. And it's always lovely to hear voices in the rooms if you want to share. Vera says less interference. Andrew, a blank canvas, indeed. Yeah. Anyone else? Like I said, feel free to unmute if you like. Why neutral everyday objects? Gudrun says you're more likely to be able to connect to them with your senses in a neutral, open way. Okay, great. So this is pretty much where we're going with this. It's important that we have this. Exactly, yeah, exactly. So somebody else said less attachment there. So we're really looking for a blank canvas. Less attachment or meaning already associated, easier to assign new meanings, says Joe as well there. So thanks, Anne and Joe. Those are great, exactly right. We want to support clients into this process of inquiry where the objects themselves and the various characteristics and qualities of the objects support clients to explore this topic. Now, some people spoke about working with different parts of ourselves. It could also be a project that they're working on. It could be a particular individual in their life that the object could represent. It could be Gudrun, as you work with focusing, as an example. It could be a particular felt sense that could be externalized into an object, in a sense. It could be, or even our felt sense as we engage with the object, and our topic is, in many ways, we're always working with the felt sense when we're doing object feedback, but and doing body entry coaching in general. But the idea is that we're placing this into the object. In a sense, the object therefore represents whatever it is we might be working with, and we want that to be really a blank canvas as much as possible, so our clients can do some discovering. An object that has a strong association already may kind of bleed into the exploration, muddy the waters a bit. So if we don't have any particular associations with it, then that's going to be a really good object to use. Like I said, I don't have any particular strong association with this particular stone. That'd be a great object for me to use in object feedback. However, conversely, like the photograph of my sister and I as children on my coffee table over there, or the figurine up here that a friend of mine bought me for my birthday, these wouldn't be great objects for me to use in object feedback. They're already imbued with meaning for me. So we want the client to feel free to play in the realm of embodied imagination and metaphor, rather than being tethered to any pre-existing association with the object. And we're going to help them make new discoveries. This also supports clients not to get caught up in perfectionism. You know, like, I must find exactly the right object. Yeah. We want to actually choose the object first and then place the inquiry into the object. So the client is not looking for an object that best represents the dynamic with their mother-in-law, for example. That'll get them stuck in their heads, likely. So we want to choose the object first. And this is why we ask the client to choose, after we invite this experiment of object feedback. Actually, can I just ask everyone to pop yourselves on mute? I think I can hear a bit of typing. So I think somebody or somebodies might be off mute. So that'd be great. But yeah, so we can help them with the perfectionist tendency that says, got to find the exact thing that sort of represents what it is they're working on. Instead, we ask them to choose the object first, and then imagine and then invite them to use that object to represent whatever it might be, and that's going to help them kind of work around those pre-existing associations like you mentioned. So it's like, so in practice, it would be like saying, have you got an object you can hold in your hand? Maybe they need two. And then you might say something like, let me know what you've got there. And they say, okay, I've got stone and a seashell. Or they might say, I've got two stones, one large, one small, or I've got two pens, one green, one one blue, one red, or something like that. So and then we're just sort of inviting them to say, well, is that do you feel like that's something you can work with today? If you were to choose one of those to represent your mother-in-law, then which would that be? And great. And then if the other one were to represent you, then how would that be? Great. And this is because they pre-identified that the things that they want to work on is them and their mother-in-law and the relationship between these two, for example. So that's an example of what that might look like in practice. We want to help our clients not get into that perfectionist tendency of trying to find exactly the right object. And we really can actually say, what's an object within reach? You can actually just kind of, what's an object that's right there within reach? Okay. So how does this work in practice? Let's talk about that. Maybe I'm going to show you today a short demo, which we haven't done at a Somatic Shift series yet. A very short part of a recording, and then we'll give you an opportunity to practice that today. So I've broken this down into 3 steps. Technically, on the training here at the Somatic School and our accredited diploma in body coaching, we don't necessarily define it as these sort of 3 steps, but for the sake of time and to give you the most accessible route into doing this at kind of like a light touch level, this is how you could think about it. First, we're going to invite the experiment. Okay. So we invite the experiment by saying something like, I've got an idea for something that we could explore together. It involves working with small objects. Do you have a small object there that you can hold in your hand? Yeah. How does that sound to you? Yeah. How does that sound to you as an experiment? We'll explore something with a small object and have that represent this topic of yours. How does that sound to you? Would you like to do that? Great. And then we can move on to the second step. Now, any ordinary object is fine. Okay. Step 2. Oh. Hang on. Sorry, everyone. I seem to have. Does everyone see the slide still? But interesting. That screen seems to have timed out. Bear with me 1 second. That's interesting. Just going to stop the screen share. Okay. Come back to this. And we'll get going again. Here we go. All right. Okay. So there you go. With bated breath is step 2. So we're going to connect the object with the topic. Okay. So how might it be to imagine that the object you are holding in your hands represents, and then whatever the client's wanting to gain insight on, so a particular project. So how might it be to imagine that the object you're holding in your hand represents this new business idea of yours? Yeah. So that's step 2, connect the object with the topic. And then step 3, partner in an emergent dialogue. Partner in emergent dialogue. So this is what we're doing until the end of the intervention, so to speak. So when you hold, your business idea in your hands here, like this, what do you notice? And then we're just going to continue like this. The client will respond and we're saying, what else? And is there anything else about that? Notice, is there any impulse that's arising? Okay, a bit like that. So again, let's pull up the pull out for you so you can have a look at that in step 1, 2, 3. So you've got step 1, invite the experiment. Step 2, connect the object with the topic. And then step 3, partner in emergent dialogue. I'm going to pop the prompts into the chat for when you go into the breakouts anyway. But this is the idea. So perhaps at this point, well, no, we'll do one more thing and then I'll show you the demo. So there's something very important about object feedback. We call this a physical experiment on our accredited diploma in body coaching. This is one of our physical experiments. And there's something very important about us having an experimental attitude here. Just out of curiosity, why do you think inviting an experimental attitude is supportive of our clients in something like this or any skill that's of this kind? What do you think that allows for? Feel free to unmute if you like, or pop into the chat. Or even, what do you think I mean by an experimental attitude?
I was going to say, sorry, I'm off at the moment. I'm awaiting a horrible call, which might or might not come, but I might have to scramble off. I think with all of these kind of, with any exercises that I've done with clients where it does feel a bit odd, where they're having to do something that they may not be expecting to do, they might be expecting to just you really have to kind of set the scene and set the example and get excited about it as well. It just helps them get into the spirit of it.
Yeah, lovely, beautiful, Hannah, absolutely. And good luck with your call later. And yeah, you're welcome. And Gudrun said, curiosity. Lottie says there's no wrong answer or response. Anchor, invite them to be open-minded. Andrew, reduce pressure, encourages curiosity and openness. Playful approach, no right or wrong answer, exactly. Playful, no judgment. Freedom from having things to be things having to be perfect. Exactly. Holding things lightly. Clear the canvas before starting. Lovely. Yeah, fantastic. So that's exactly right. We want to invite an experimental attitude that almost says, we don't know what's going to come up. In an experiment, if it was a laboratory experiment, then any outcome is a good outcome, right? Whether it's, we're experimenting because we want to see what are the results of this experiment. We're curious, simply curious and open-minded to find out. We might have a hypothesis and we might have hopes, but at the end of the day, we're going to just simply engage with the experiment, see what comes. And that's what we want to invite our clients into, to engage in an experimental attitude and simply see what emerges in the moment. And that's the way that we're going to do that. So I'm going to show you a little demo now. So thank you very much, Andy, for your willingness for us to share this. That's very kind of you. And so here's Rachel, who I mentioned earlier, one of our trainers here at the school, Rachel Blackman. And we have one of our Somanauts here doing a demo of the object feedback. This is about halfway through. So just prior to this, the client here had been working with a topic around making, there are sort of two decisions or two, it's about career. There was the NHS and work there, and there was something else that was to do with a new adventure. And so there were two objects. One was an acorn, and then the other, you'll see, I don't know if you'll see the acorn in this, but the acorn was there was a beautiful reflection that the acorn had characteristics of being opened up, and much of the life had already left the acorn. It was sort of opened up, much of the life had already gone. And there were some emotions that came alongside being in relation with this object that related to the topic, working at the NHS and in that particular role. And then I think where we are here was there was an invitation. There was sort of an exploration about some of what's coming up and an invitation just to follow impulse. So we're working with that first object. There's going to be an invitation to follow an impulse that arises, and then I think client here will begin to start working with the second object. So let's have a look at this. I think I need to share computer audio. So let's do that as well. There we go. That should work now.
It's just, I think it's time to move on. It's time to let that one go. It's time to finally unhook it. Let it go.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. And so if you put that pine cone somewhere that feels kind of relevant, you can explore how far away. Just try explore where it might go.
I'm right behind the laptop.
Okay, how's that feel?
I think I want to put it on the fire.
Do you have a fire there?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, do you want to give that a go?
Ooh.
You don't have to do it right now, just if you want to.
I'm going to go near. I'm going to see how far I can get.
See how far it wants to go near. And you could do it after the session if you still feel like you want to do it. You don't have to do it. How's that?
That's good. It's just sitting in front.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Just sitting in front of the fire.
How's that feel?
I'm going to watch it burn later. See what colors come out.
Oh,
right.
Yeah. Yeah, what are you noticing?
I'm noticing this big empty space of where it was.
Ah.
Yeah.
And how's that feel?
A bit blank. So there's no sadness now, but it's a bit blank. It's almost like I've been sticking a load of emotion onto something that I should have let go a while ago.
Interesting.
Yeah, like my emotion is spent. Like the cone. Yeah.
Good.
Done.
You just did that with your hand. Yeah. Okay, great. So if that's done, let's then turn to the earbuds. If you could kindly pick the earbuds up. And the earbuds, just to remind you, were representing winging it and following your passion, which goes against the family imprint you were saying.
Yeah.
Expectations. Notice how it feels to hold that now. Hold your winging it vibes.
So I want to hold it in both hands.
Yep.
Not just one. I want to hold it in both. And even though it's hard, it's like it's got a solid structure and it's smooth and it's not jagged. Yeah,
right. Something about it being smooth and not jagged.
Yeah. So it's very flowy and smooth and and caressable.
Yeah, and as you continue to caress it and enjoy its flowiness, what else do you notice?
But it's got a hidden surprise.
It's got hidden surprises.
And it has power. It has its own power.
Wow. Wow. Okay, just everything's a metaphor, right?
Yeah.
Got its own power. It's got a hidden surprise.
Actually has two surprises.
Yeah.
I'll pause it there for the sake of time. The reason I want to share that demo with you, again, thank you very much for volunteering that demo for our coachee there. I wanted you to see a little bit how Rachel was working with the flow of the process there, kind of that very stewarding along, what are you noticing now, and as you connect with that, what are you noticing here? Okay, so that's the spirit of this. Very non-directive in that sense. We're not applying meaning on behalf of the client. We're helping the client just connect with through the object. Are we ready to give this a go? Yeah, cool. So I'm going to put you in groups of 3, and there's only going to go one way round. Before I do this, I just want to pop a quick slide up here. I'll come back to that one in a moment. So for those of you who need to drop off, who aren't doing the breakout room, if you do want to continue exploring with the somatic skill, you're curious about the accredited diploma in body root coaching, what I'd love to invite you to do is directly message Caro. Caro is here. She's one of our course consultants. She's here at the event today. If you find Caro, or you can send it to the main group if you like, and just feel free to directly message Caro or send in the main group. Just either a 1, 2, or 3. That's it. Just put 1, 2, or 3. 1, I want to learn more about enrolling in the diploma. Please reach out with next steps. 2, I'm intrigued, but I have a few questions. I'd love to have a chat with someone first. Or 3, not for me, but thank you. I enjoyed today. If you need to drop off now, or if you'd like to just let Caro or the team know that you're interested, then 1, 2, or 3. And now let's come back to this. So fundamentals of object feedback, then we're going to contract for an outcome, invite the experiment, reduce the topic to 1 or 2 elements, find the nearest object, project a topic onto the object, and explore the characteristics of that object and associations. Invite a move, so following any impulse that may arise, you can do that if that feels you've got time and that feels right. And then prepare to land, so wrapping up the process with insights, next steps at the end of the session, if you like. Now, some of you are already coaches, some of you are brand new to this. Some of you are going to feel more confident doing this. Some of you are going to feel less. That's why you're going to be in groups of 3. One person can choose to be an observer. One person can choose to be a coach. And one person can choose to be a client. And we're going to do one way round. So you've got 10 minutes in total. We'll be coming back here at about 56 minutes past or something around that. But you got 10 minutes in total just to do 10 minutes of coaching. We'd like to invite you to talk about a topic, which is like a vision that you have for yourself. So something that you're excited about, we're going to put into the object that, like a vision that you have for yourself, something that you're curious, something that you're wanting in your life, and that you want to have the object represent that. But the object could be anything. That's the important thing to know. Okie dokes. So I'm going to open up breakouts now. And here you go. If you find yourself in a breakout room and there's no one in there, please just stay there for a little bit and I'll make sure that you get someone into your breakout room as soon as possible. Let's see. Yeah, so there's a couple of pairs as well. So just wait in the breakout room if you need them. We'll see you back here in 10 minutes. All right, welcome back. So a small breakout there, probably just a flavor of things. You may have just got into something. It may feel like there's more to be explored, no doubt. And if you'd like to stay in touch with each other, feel free to exchange contact details privately to one another, and you might like to continue the conversation or continue the exploration after the event. Now we've only got a few more minutes left, so I'm just going to pop up this, but then we'll of course have after hours to do our Q&A and unpack them more. I'd also love to hear about how some of your experience was. So just in the final few minutes here before we open it up, and I'll keep the recording rolling too for that. But if you'd like to keep exploring, if you're curious about our accredited diploma in body image coaching, whether you're a number 1 that you know you're interested in enrolling and you'd like us to reach out to you with next steps on how to do that, or you're intrigued, you have a few questions, you'd like to have a conversation, that's 1 or 2. And if you're 3, it's not for you, and you can let us know that too if you'd like. So if you want to go ahead, share 1, 2, or 3 in the chat, either directly to Caro or in the main group, up to you. It doesn't matter that much, actually. So you can go ahead and do that. And then, we already done that. So that was our practice. So this is body image coaching. We've got skill set. These are some of the various skills that we train on the course, and we've just explored one example of a physical experiment with our object feedback today. And so to learn the full skill set and how to become a certified body image coach, or find out more about that, you can find us here. If you scan this, that'll take you to our website. You can also find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Substack, if you'd like to just keep following and learn more about the Somatic School. And if you'd like to, so we have this, if you'd like to, you can also book a discovery call with our course consultant. That'd be either Caro or Alex. And you can scan that there, and that will take you through to a call booking page where you could do exactly that. For those of you who need to head off today, thank you very much for joining the event. But either if you'd like to stay on to ask some questions or share some reflections, I would love to hear how that particular practice was for some of you, and open up for a bit of a group discussion around that, and then answer any questions that you may have. So feel free to stay on a little longer to do exactly that. Cool. Yeah, how was that for you? How was your little foray into object feedback? Daxo, I see you're unmuted, but that might not be for this, but okay, no. Yeah, how was that for, would anyone like to share on embodied feedback, your little practice then? Anything come up for you in that experience that you'd like to offer to the group? Not necessarily as a coachee as much as probably as your coach, as a coach practicing this method here. Or, oh yeah, go Victoria.
Yeah, I just wish I had more time because we just got to like scratch the surface, I believe, with Sue, and it was awesome. And I really liked how just taking an object into your hand can show so many details and can, show you a different perspective. And for me personally, as a coach, it was so interesting to get to know the other person's perspective, because as I see her and as she sees herself through the object, it's so deep, and it helps to know the person without their own interpretations of themselves, like look beyond what's on the surface. I love that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you, Victoria.
And definitely more time. It's a deep instrument. You just need more time for that.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Victoria. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, feel free to connect and continue the exploration if that feels resonant for you both, your partner. So lovely. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm always taken by surprise about how much comes up and how quickly it just sort of emerges and blossoms, and how supportive it is to use an object rather than just yourself all the time.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Andy. Yeah, powerful. Yeah, so can be quite immediate, almost the insights that come there. Yeah, absolutely. Lovely, cool. Yeah, and maybe just opening up to any questions or other reflections beyond the practice itself, if there's anything in the space. Do like another. Take a few more minutes here if yeah.
Nathan, hey, this is Darren.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time today and reconnecting me to this community. I think one of the things that is not necessarily representative of this particular experience or call is how profound the community is here. It's a generative space, and it's very hard to do that in a 1 hour call. So I hope that people who are seeing this and seeing it later, having gone through the entire year plus process, get that, because it's one of the things I most value about the Somatic School. You've done an exceptional job.
Thank you, Dan. Those are touching words. Deeply grateful for you and your presence in our community. Thank you very much. And thank you for coming and reconnecting. Delighted it was generative for you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Great. Yeah. Any final thoughts here before we close up for today? Lottie.
Hi. Just wanted to say how beautifully simple it is, that exercise. And I can imagine, even if the person you're working with drew a complete blank at the beginning, which I'm sure some people do, you could even really explore that blank in a really kind and curious way and get a lot out of it. Yeah, I've done something where someone I worked with has used you choose multiple objects for different aspects of your life and your vision, and it's such a simple thing that you could grow as well. Yeah, really beautiful practice. Thank you.
Yeah, lovely, beautiful, Lottie. Yeah, I love that spirit of yes and. I don't know if you're familiar with that from improv work, but they're kind of even if somebody draws a blank, there's something to be explored in that, and maybe in relation even to the object itself. And what does that tell them? What do they learn about themselves through that? Indeed, yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Lottie. Thanks for sharing your reflections there.
I had one question.
Yeah, Elena.
So the object can represent even a strong emotion or a struggle, so it can represent anything.
Yeah, absolutely. The object itself could represent an emotion, like you say, a struggle, which you could say is a sort of like a mood or a state or a quality of being. It could be, like I mentioned before, it could be a particular project. It could be a dynamic between two people, or yourself and like the client and another individual. It could be a part of somebody, like, the part of me that wants X. There's the part of me that wants this. On the other hand, there's the part of me that wants that. There's a part of me that wants to be in a relationship, and there's a part of me that wants to be free to move through the world as I please, solo, something like that. Somebody might explore those two facets of their being in with an object. It could be a desire that they have. It could be anything, basically.
So what is my experience is like when I put it in an object, after it's easier to transcend it, like, or it's easier to let it go. Or...
What do you think it might be that permits that, Elena? What do you think it is about the quality, the old object feedback process that allows for that to be so?
It's that I externalize it and I realize that I'm more than this, or even this struggle. It's no, what it comes to me is to put it in terms of consciousness, that I am more than this struggle.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, this reminds me of that line. I don't know who it's quoted often. I don't know who said it. It said, we contain multiplicities. We contain multiplicities. There's one, and then also Anne Weisel-Cornell, who created inner relationship focusing. This is the type of focusing that we train here at the Somatic School. She said, when we do focusing, we can help our clients become bigger than what's bugging them. And so similar vein. And then there's also, as you say, Elena, that you are so much more than only that one facet of your being. They're beautiful. And that you get to explore that and be in genuine relationship with it, which is kind of where the insights come, by being in dialogue with it. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Elena. Beautiful insights. Yeah, Gudrun, you'll be the last, one of the first in and the last out to see us out here. So yeah, what did you want to share?
I would just like to ask, are there like YouTube videos or somewhere where I can explore more, like where I can listen to examples of embodiment somatic coaching? Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you look, this is the 6th in the somatic shift series, and so this is one skill of many that we've trained, and so you'll maybe see some more examples of the skill set from the other 5 that have been done already. You can have a look at that on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. Yeah, the somatic.
You look at the somatic school.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. And there's no, like, where you explore that further, this focusing with an object. I'm really intrigued.
Oh, this particular skill. Just matter of fact, the only other place would be on the diploma itself to go into that in more depth. But we'll also be uploading some more demos in due course so people can see it in practice. But yeah, if you wanted to have an experiential, hands-on, be in the learning journey with that, then that would be the diploma to go into more depth with that particular skill. Yeah,
I see. It's very fascinating.
Great.
And I also wanted to add, you were talking about Anne Weisel-Cornell and talking about this blank. We in focusing, we often relate to it like there's something there, instead of saying it's blank, there's nothing. There's something.
Yeah, in a sense, right? So the object itself is a blank canvas, so that the something can be really experienced as it sort of presents itself here. So Eugene Genlin said focusing is a very special thing where you have an I attending to an it. And in many ways, in body-oriented coaching, we project our it out onto the object itself. So it's another way, in a sense, to do it's you could argue that it's a kind of a focusing process. It's similar, but most of what we do, you see, Eugene Genlin coined the term felt sense, but to describe something that we all have access to, and that focusing is a method, of which there are many, many varieties, to kind of connect with and dialogue with said felt sense. So body-oriented coaching is essentially a sort of swath of different skills and interventions and ways of doing exactly that. So we're really working in the same, you know, that process of embodied sense making, you know, other ways of knowing through the body.
Yeah, Gentlin always stressed that it can work in any other context. Like focusing isn't a real method; it's something you apply to something. So yes.
Yeah. So exactly. So this is put all of us here today, and anyone who's doing this kind of work. Well, in a sense, I feel like we're all contributing to the remembering of something that's inherently human, which is these intelligence beyond the intellect, basically. And right now in the world we live in today, this is perhaps more what's the word, more alive in the zeitgeist than ever before, because we've created a very powerful intellect, which is artificial intelligence, and now we're sat here wondering, okay, well then what do we do here? And perhaps a big part of that is actually these kind of more you could call them perhaps like wisdom practices, or, you know, other ways of knowing and things like that. And that's what we're cultivating here, these kinds of practices, perhaps practices of what we're evolving into as a species. And ironically, kind of harking back to where we perhaps originally began. So as is often the way.
You would take it back into the body, like in focusing, like in the...
Are you talking about with object feedback? Or are you talking about, because object feedback, this is just one skill of many within the body coaching skill set, but we're always, that's an interesting thought. Okay, so just to answer that quick question, then we'll have to wrap up for today. But with object feedback, would you take it back into the body? And in many ways, you are in fact doing a kind of embodied sense making by connecting with it, because we're working with our sense perceptions to recognize, and, you know, whether that's the tactile, whether that's our visual sense, you know, for some it might be even smell, you know, and so we are in many ways working through our embodied self-awareness to even kind of arrive at meaning that kind of emerges out of that. So it's not so dissimilar. Having said that, if you wanted to then connect to a kind of more inner felt sense, or that at the level of sensation, for example, that of course you could always check in with the client, and what else is here for you now, and how do you experience that in your body? I suppose the one thing about object feedback is that it can be useful for some clients for it to be actually outside of themselves. That comes back to your original inquiry, I think. While many people focusing is very accessible and helpful, for others this can be another way in, especially where that's not as available to some clients.
Yeah, I know of a woman who has used it in Gaza, like for people who are very traumatized, to use an object because it's difficult to connect with the body.
Exactly, yeah, for something, yeah, exactly. So if it's difficult to be inside, in internal experience can be more disorientating for some people. So to kind of come to bring attention out can actually also be very supportive when there's more dysregulation there as well.
Yeah,
good stuff. Great. Thank you, everyone. Well, I think that brings us to the end of our after hours. Thank you, Gudrun, for your questions. Thank you, everyone, for your questions and reflections. It's good to be with you all today, and hopefully you stay in touch. Looking forward to seeing many of you again soon. In the meantime, take care. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye for now.